Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's a Super Day with the PA Political Revolution podcast. I know I've been gone for a minute. It's been like about at least a month, I know for sure. Probably a month and a half or two. But I'm back. I'm back in here with a good episode today. Have a special guest over here today to give you some good information. I have none other than a former council member and citizen advocate, Harold Doucet. Can you go ahead and let the people know something if they don't know who you are, if they've been living under a rock?
Well, no, this is Harold Doucet, former council member, and is in reference to the increase in property tax. You know, it's really a burden at this time because a lot of people are seeing an increase of the property tax of at least 40%. So the first thing that we need to make sure everyone understands is it's not the city's responsibility to set property tax rates.
Okay. When you say property tax, you mean that the letter that everybody got in the mail a couple of days ago, right?
Right. You know, we set a tax rate for the city, but when you get your property tax, it's based on the appraisal of your property.
Mm-hmm.
And the appraisal of your property is not done by the city, and it's not done by the county. It is done by the appraisal district. That's Jefferson County Appraisal District.
Okay.
That is why the tax assessor made a statement to let everybody know we do not set the appraisal value of your property. The appraisal district does it.
Okay, because I was just about to ask you that question because that letter had something specific in there, didn't it? I think it said talk to your council members or somebody like that. It said talk to somebody else except them. So you can go ahead and clear it up for us right quick. What does that letter state, and who are they trying to transfer the burden to?
Well, you know, they basically letting everybody know for two reasons. One, they want everybody to know that we didn't set this. Two, we're not the real person you should complain about the appraised value of your property. Okay? The tax rate the city set for city and all the entities and then the county. But the actual taxes you pay is based on the appraised value of your property because each one of those taxing entities will get a percentage based on whatever their tax rate is, the port, the school district, the city, the county. So they all get a portion of that tax. But the tax rate, the percentage they get is going to be based on what your property is appraised at, whether it's a resident or a business, whatever. The Jefferson County Appraisal District is the one who does the appraisal and give you the value.
Okay, so just for clarification, I do apologize. I'm going to kind of
no.
I'm going to jump in every now and then so I can kind of break it down for the people. Go ahead.
That's what I'm here for because the questions you have are questions other people have. So anytime I'm speaking and saying anything, you know, please at any time stop me and ask the question because maybe it needs to be clarified.
Right, no problem. So just to make sure that it's straight, like this, who actually sets the rate again? Is it the state sets the rate?
No, the Jefferson County Appraisal District.
Okay.
They set not the rate. They set the appraised value.
Okay, the value
of your property.
Okay, and who actually sets the rate for it?
Okay, the rates are set by your taxing entities. Okay, see, like the school district. If the school district decided to raise their taxes, they would have to go to the citizen if they went above the maximum they're allowed to do in any given year. They'll have to go to citizens, but they establish their rate. The city establish this rate. You notice every year we do a budget.
Right.
We have to establish a tax rate, and we have public hearing on it.
Oh, okay. So for
So
clarification again, so the property tax rate is a combination of different tax entities, right? Like the school district, the city, and others.
yeah, every everybody got different rates that they tax your property. Okay, that's the whole thing. People have to understand. They all have a rate to tax your property, but they all use the same value for your property because that is established by the Jefferson County Appraisal District.
Okay.
The Jefferson County Appraisal District appraises your property. See, people have to understand there's two different things here.
Right.
One is the appraised value of your property,
Right.
whether it's resident or commercial. The other, when you talk about how much we pay each one of these, now that goes to the rate.
Right.
So that rate is applied to that appraised value, and that's how much taxes you pay each one of them. Okay? So if you ever look at your tax statement, you'll see the school district is going to be your higher taxing entity with their rate.
Right.
So they will multiply that rate time whatever Jefferson County say your property is valued at, and that's what the tax you owe them. The city, they apply their rate to that value. That's what you owe the city. The port, they apply theirs to that appraised value.
Okay. The
That's
port is
how
another
much
one.
you pay them. So that's how you end up. Now your total taxes that you're going to owe for that year is going to be the sum when they add all of this up.
Right.
You see? So when you pay your taxes, then all of these different tax entities, they receive that revenue. So people really need to understand how they derive at the amount and who is responsible for what portion. Now, the Jefferson County Appraisal District, they do the appraising of your property. Some cities in the state of Texas, they do individual appraisal. In other words, they have somebody that appraise your property every year.
Right. Right.
And if they're gonna increase it, okay, they increase your property based on what they say your property is valued at this year. The city, the county here, Jefferson County Appraisal District, they use what they call cross the board. And when they say cross the board, what they basically say is if we're going to increase taxes 10%, that means that everybody is going to have an increase in their taxes of 10%.
Okay.
So if your home, if your value stayed the same, or if it's increased or whatever, they're going to raise it 10%.
Okay. When you say Jefferson County, what entity are you talking about right there?
Okay, when I say Jefferson County Appraisal District.
Okay, you're talking about the appraisal district. Okay.
Right. Some people may think when I say Jefferson County Appraisal District, they say, oh, well, they're under the county. That's the county.
Okay, I got it. So when you say Jefferson County, okay, you're talking about the appraisal district. I just want to make sure it's clear for everybody.
Right. It's the appraisal district because they are like drainage districts in the state, okay? You know, although they are located in our area, but they're not under the control of the county. You see, you got Drainage District 6, which operates in Beaumont, but in Port Arthur, we have Drainage District 7 that cover us.
Right.
So
87.
the appraisal district, to give you another example so you could understand it, it's like the housing authority. It says Port Arthur Housing Authority, but it handles an area that's not strictly Port Arthur.
Okay,
You
cool.
see?
Okay, cool. I think let me go ahead and get a summary for you right quick. So basically, the property taxes is made up of the school district taxes, the city taxes, port, and there may be some others I'm missing. Right, those are the taxes entities.
The navigation district.
Yeah, navigation district.
The drainage district.
Drainage district. Okay.
Yeah, we pay taxes to all of those in it.
Right. So all of those in it is what accumulates is what's called the property taxes, and now
There you go.
the actual Jefferson County Appraisal District, they actually assess the value of it, like of your property or rental property. Like if you have a home and maybe with 80,000, 100, 120,000,
You got it.
200,000, that's who
You got
assessed the value of your property.
That's who established the value.
Okay, and if they want to have a property tax rate increase or something, each entity they're going to have to go to the citizens and try to get a vote on it or something like that, right?
Well, no.
Okay.
The state has a ceiling on what a tax entity can increase
Right.
in 1 year,
Okay.
for a period annually. However, if you want to go above it, then it has to go to citizens for citizens to approve that rate.
Okay.
You see, but as long as you stay within the allowable percentage, and I'm not sure what it is, that's come I won't say it,
Right.
because it can vary. But as long as you don't exceed that, then they can actually increase the taxes without the voters' consent.
Okay.
But if they exceed the amount that they said you cannot raise it higher than in one given year, then that must go to the voters for voters to approve.
Okay.
Okay.
You seem to
So-
got this. Oh, go ahead.
You're right. Now, this that has happened this year
Right.
is the result of what I believe leaders and everybody
Okay.
making this.
Okay. Just for clarification, you're talking about the extremely high increases had this year, right?
That big jump.
Yeah, the big jump. Okay.
In some cases, in most cases, it's like 40% increase.
Right.
You
Go
know,
ahead and break down for us how that happened.
Well, every year, the appraisal district establish the market value for our homes, supposed to be based on what homes are selling for in the area, and that's what the state required them to do. Okay. Now, you can be hit with a disaster. What the appraisal district can do and does, they can have your value for your property for this particular year lower than what it was in the past, because they saying your house got tore up with the hurricane, so your home is not valued what it was when it wasn't tore up. You had damage.
Right.
So your house is not worth what it is if it's damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're going to tax you for that year, they feel that they should tax you with a lower tax value, because your home is not as valuable as it was if it didn't have the damage. Well, what happened is our area got hit with these disasters back to back. We had Harvey, then we had a Melder, we had Lar. So we had disasters, or we had weather or some type of thing that created a problem with our value, so that our
Right.
value remained low. But when our value remains low, that means that what the state is following and saying, hey, homes selling for this amount in your area, but you all is not appraising the values up to this. So what happened with the Jefferson County Appraisal District, when the state comptroller came down and done an audit, that's when they found out that the tax level that the Jefferson County Appraisal District was doing was lower than what it should be for the value of homes. So in other words, they're not appraising homes as high as they should.
Okay, so let me go ahead and get this straight. So for the past few years, due to these storms and other environmental factors, we've been getting a lower we've been taxing our homes at a lower rate than what is normally supposed to be through the through the
That,
state size, right?
well, there you go. Because see, the state, right? The, how the state does it with this audit, what the state does when they do an audit, and they do it every other year. They
Okay.
don't do it every year. They do
Right.
it every other year. So when they came down and audited the Jefferson County Appraisal District, what they found was that the appraisal value that they were putting on homes in this area did not come up to what the homes are appraised for based on what they were selling for. See, so that's how the controller audits it. They come out and they look in the area where homes are being sold, and they see what the appraised value of these homes being sold are, right?
Right.
So if they're being sold for these values, then the appraisal district should have been appraising these homes in at that value. But what they found in their audit was that Jefferson County Appraisal District was not appraising the value high enough, which created a problem
Right.
because now the state not getting their money.
Okay.
So the remedy for this is you have to increase your taxes. We need to get our money that we feel we're losing by increasing your taxes. Because they can't do it. They cannot tax it. But they know what they should be getting based on this audit.
Right.
Okay? So because Jefferson County Appraisal District did not have values appraised at what they thought it should have been from the results of that audit, now Jefferson County will be audited for 2021 and 2022. So instead of getting an audit every 2 years, they're now going to be audited this year and next year.
Every year right now. Okay.
They're going to be audited. Well, no, they're going to be audited this year and next year. 2 years consecutive, as opposed to every other year,
right.
because they want to now ensure that the appraised value that they're giving these homes are in conjunction with what the homes are selling for in these areas. You see, because that's the only way you could really get an appraised value from an area is to find out what the homes are selling. So
Okay.
when they come down and do their audit,
Right.
that's the way they conduct the audit. They
Okay.
find out what homes been selling for. Then they look at what you taxing these homes in that area.
Right. Okay. Now what happens, say for instance, like the state, hey, I want my money right now. I want my money.
Well,
Y'all need to get the money. What's some of the
no.
options that the county does to get the money for the state?
Okay, well, what happened in this particular case? The state basically said you have not been getting the taxes that you should have based on what we think this appraisal value should have been based on what these houses been selling for. So they saying, if we can't get this money from the taxes that we thought, then we take money from schools because they fund the schools. Okay?
Right.
So the decision is now made, how can we get the money? Well, if you can't tax more than 10% increase, but the 10% still won't put you back where you need to be based on what they're telling you, right?
Right.
Then you have to pay money. So what Jefferson County Appraisal District did, they used part of the law that said if you have had disasters and for some reason your value were down, in order to establish the correct appraisal value, you can go back to what the appraisal value was prior to the disaster and do that with 10%. So if people would go back to their if they have the tax documents, they're gonna find out. If look at what their taxing value was for their property prior to Harvey, right?
Right.
Then look at it what it was after Harvey. They're gonna see it had dropped. It dropped.
Okay.
So basically, go ahead.
Okay. Let me go ahead and kind of freeze right there. So what you're saying is that there is a law that the county appraisal district, right, if it's short on taxes, it can go back to the previous year it can go to the previous tax rate of one of those natural disasters and kind of retroactively fill it in for the last 2 or 4 years.
Look, they knew that the law said you can't raise it
Right,
more than 10% in a year.
In 1 year.
So, but also with this same law, it says that for instances where you were dealing with disasters and your value was lowered because of the disaster, because as I stated, they can't charge you. I mean, they can't appraise your home for $200,000, and
Right.
a hurricane came through and tore the roof off.
Right.
So what they do, they can lower your taxes for that year, but the next year they should have appraised it based on what the houses in the area were selling for, the way they're supposed to do. So if people go back, they're probably going to see where after Harvey, their appraised value at a home, they were basically lower than it was prior to Harvey. So this law says if disasters occurred during this period, instead of you being restricted to just 10% of this appraised value that you got, and I'm going to give an example.
Right.
If the appraised value of the home was $200,000 prior to Harvey, after Harvey, say my home was now appraised at $180,000.
Right.
That's $20,000 less.
Right.
So we continue a couple years. Now I've got to raise the taxes to bring your home value back up to what it should be based on what houses are selling for in this area. And I find out houses are selling for $25,000 more than what your house is appraised at.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, if I raise this taxes 10%, it still won't bring this value up to where we're supposed to be.
Right.
So what they say, the law says, you could go back to the pre-disaster value. So you go back to that $200,000. Now you put 10% on that. That's what you could appraise it at.
Okay.
You see?
Okay, so let me go.
So-
Stop right there. Let me go ahead and give an example to kind of make sure it's clarified to me and also the people that's listening. Say, for instance, 2018. I don't know exactly when all the disasters happened, right? Say, for instance, 2018 had a hurricane. So what you're saying, the law says it can go back to 2017 and get a tax rate, right? And say that tax rate was 10%, it was selling for more. So what you're saying, that can go and retroactively go to 2018 where that storm was, and instead of the low ball percentage, it can raise it up to 10% that year. And also it can do the same thing if they had some storms after that.
Right. They can go back to use the value that the homes were worth prior to that disaster.
Okay.
Because if people look and see, I guess that's why everybody was so happy, because they say the government is helping us after Harvey, for an example. I use Harvey.
Right, yeah.
If you go back, you'll find out that because these homes were destroyed, that they just lowered people's taxes for appraised value on their property. They got big breaks. Okay? But the problem with that is, once you raise it back, if you're not raising it to what the value is for homes that are selling now for this year, and it's done on a yearly basis, okay?
Right.
whatever they're selling for it now, then the state is losing money, and the state is going to get on you because you're not doing it right, because you're supposed to be using a value based on what homes are selling for that particular year.
Right, the appraisal district.
You see? So that's what happened. So in this particular case, even the 10% on what they currently have your home valued at still would not bring it in line with what the houses in your area is selling for.
Right.
So in order to get a bigger increase than 10%, they'll go back and look at that pre-disaster value, and then they'll put 10% on that, which now is going to give them a higher value than if they just put 10% on what you got today.
Okay, and this raise that we just got this year, this is for like multiple years. Am I correct on that?
No, what you see today is actually your taxes you're going to have to pay at the end of the year for 2021.
Right.
Because you received your notice today, then you have, like, I think June, in which you have to say you want to appeal it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Absolutely. So this tax this year, this is the increase for this year, and also
Right.
before, right?
No, well, they use the value for your home pre-disaster.
Okay.
See, because
okay. So they use the pre-disaster number for just this year, right? And that's why
there you
it's
go.
inflated. Okay, so it's not over several years. It's just this one
No.
year, but they use the pre-storm. Okay.
And
they use the pre-storm numbers so they can make it jump over 10%, right? Because 10% wasn't going to be enough. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
The other thing is, this is a one-time deal here.
Right.
Because once they bring the value up to what it should be based on what houses are selling for, right? Then it goes from there. So now it's back up here. So let's say homes are going to be selling for a higher value next year. Well, next year, that means that they can increase your taxes based on what homes are selling for in this area. But they can't go more than 10%. So basically what you'll see in the future is, unless a disaster do what they did this time, what you're going to see is you'll never have your taxes increase more than 10%. So if you're paying $2,000 for taxes, you'll never see more than $200 increase. That's 10%.
Right.
You see, you'll never have it because the only way they can do what happened this time is when the value is low, where 10% will not bring it to where it equals to what the value is based on the houses that are selling for this year in this area. You see? So that's something. But now I talked with Representative Doucet, and he was going to a Zoom meeting.
Right.
So I set a time I want to get back with him because I think he needs to talk with other legislators to have them to pass some type of legislation to go back and look at this going back to the pre-disaster value.
Right, yeah.
And let them make sure that they put a cap on that. Okay? See, it has to be legislation because right now the legislation allow them to go back to that. Well, if they go back to that value, they need to put something and say, and that value cannot be more than.
Okay.
You see?
Right. Okay. Gotcha. So let me go ahead and just jump back one more time to make sure I get everything straight. So what happened this year, right, since we had the storms and everything, and say for instance, my home is valued at $50,000, right? $50,000, the 10% of that, what is $5,000, whatever, something like that, $5,000, whatever, and that's not going to bring the county up to what it should have been paid, right? So
No. So not the county. What that won't do is
the state.
That won't bring your value up to what houses comparable to yours
Oh,
is
right,
selling
right.
for.
So like if before that, so before the storm, right, or whatever, my house was worth $100,000. They went back and used that value, then assessed the 10% on that. Is that correct?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So where
There you
now
go.
after the storm, my house was worth $50,000, but before it was worth $100,000. So they used that tax value to 10% that up, and that's where they get the extra money from because it was worth more.
Yeah. See, because what happens is every year, Jessup County sends out the notices on what your tax is going to be. So if anyone wants to contest it, they have time to contest it before they send out their tax notice. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And this has to be done yearly because home value is not going to be the same every year. Either your property value will increase or your property value is going to decrease, depending on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, the market drives that appraisal.
Right.
See, that market. Now, one disadvantage I feel that we have here in our appraisal district is that, we got what they call across the board value, is appraisal. And across the board simply means that if they're going to increase property taxes, they're not going to go and take a look at your home and see if your home and value change.
Oh,
okay. If they decide that, we need to increase the value so that we could stay within what the market is and what's going on, they do it across the board. So let's say your house during this year, you had problems where your roof caved in. Well, your house is not valued what it was appraised the year before because everything was working, everything was good. But if they do a increase in taxes, then you're gonna get the same percentage even though your roof is caved in.
Yeah.
You see?
Right, I got you.
Now, that's the disadvantage of being in a appraisal district that use across the board appraisal and increases. But at the same token, citizens have to really understand their rights with this.
Right.
One, a citizen needs to understand that if for some reason something is wrong with your home and your home is not what they have on the record, right, then you need to appeal it so that they'll come out there and take pictures of the house current, and make sure that what they have is actually what it is. You see? And at the same token, when citizens challenge their taxes, it got to be, they have to have the knowledge that they're going to come out and check it again, now individually, because you are appealing it. So they got to now go make sure. So if you did any renovations, right, and they don't have it, you may end up getting more taxes than what they gave you because now they went out there and saw you did some work that they didn't have included in your value.
Okay.
So it's a double-edged sword where you got to be careful. The other thing that citizens need to understand is if they appeal to the Jefferson County Appraisal District and they do not approve their appeal, if they deny it, the citizens have a right to get an attorney and sue the appraisal district.
Okay.
They can sue the appraisal. But here's the problem.
Right.
You may be looking at maybe $500-600 difference in taxes that you're appealing, but your attorney may charge you $2,500.
Absolutely.
To handle the case.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why a lot of people do not sue because it ain't worth it in some cases.
Right, not cost effective.
But that's why the industry appeal them almost every year. An industry appeals their appraised value because they have high power lawyers on their staff that works for them. So they just use their own lawyers to handle the case, and they're talking millions of dollars.
Right.
So that's why they appeal. They got nothing to lose but a whole lot to gain.
Right. So let me go ahead and stop on that point. So for the actual citizen, the property is undervalued, but according to the refinery, their property is overvalued, right?
Right. And I think, David, the thing that's happened is that they don't agree with what the appraisal district is saying is worth based on what they think how it should be appraised. Well, we don't either. We don't agree with what they're telling us because I've had instances at one time in 2006, I was living in another home I had built when I first retired.
Mm-hmm.
I appealed it because the appraised value they had, I couldn't sell the house for.
Right.
I went before them and I told them, I said, if you could sell it for this, I'll sell it today. But they listened to me. Then they let that appraiser talk. And after that finished, it was like I talked on deaf ears.
Right.
And I just walked out because I understand obtaining a lawyer and fighting a battle. You know, it'd be one, if I got the money, I could do it for the principle of it.
Yeah, right.
But if I could take the money that I go pay a lawyer, I could pay the additional taxes and still save money, then I say I'm not going to mess with it.
Right.
So it's really people just have to understand that what's happening to us this particular year is not something that routinely happens. And it will not be like a snowball, you know, whereby next year your taxes are going to jump so significantly higher. You see, because right now, I would venture to say if a person is paying a mortgage on a home where they are required to pay insurance and stuff out of their escrow,
Yeah.
I would venture to say that the average increase in monthly mortgage is going to be probably $100.
Wow.
The average.
Ouch.
Some people going to see an increase of $200-$300. Okay.
Right.
Because if you pay $6,000 worth of taxes last year, then you could bet this year it's going to be 82.
Right.
Because, like I said, it's based on the actual increase, and the way you can find out what it's going to be for you is you look at what they giving you your appraised value now and go back to your appraised value prior to Harvey, and then look at every year between Harvey and now. You're going to find out that your appraised value was lower than what it is.
Right.
It was going to be lower than what it was prior to Harvey.
Right. Now also is it
so you know it's good for us when we got a break.
Yeah.
But
you got to pay it up now.
Because there you go. So now it's catch up time.
Yeah. Right.
See, but I believe that we as leaders, we have to sometimes understand what is required. And I truly believe that the Jefferson County Appraisal District responsibility was to ensure that those appraisal values they were given was one that will be acceptable to the state and follow their guidelines. And that is issuing those values based on what homes are selling for. That's why they have to give you appraisal every year.
Right. And so is it safe to say that the appraisal district is kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place because on one end they trying to give people a break after the storm. Well, yeah, after the storm, but then
Eh,
again on the other side we have to pay it up, and it's falling short of the
Well,
state.
I believe that they didn't give us the break. It's just that they realized they can't give us a high value if our home's not worth it because
Right.
of the
Okay.
condition they in. But as soon as they get past there, they should be following up on if your home was renovated and you back uh, whole. If you've been made whole, then your house now is worth what the homes
Before.
are selling for in that area.
Right. Right. Okay.
I can't leave it low.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
to know what they're selling for in that area.
Right.
That's why your taxes are always done. But I never understood, why is it that there's always an increase? It's never a decrease
Decrease.
in value because, when the housing market is bad,
Right. Yeah.
things like our appraised value
Should go down.
would be low because, you're saying, hey, nobody buying homes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So nobody buying, nobody selling. So, it's one of those type things. Like
Right.
right now, it's the seller's market because there are not enough homes for the number of people wanting homes right now.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
it's actually a seller's market.
Right.
So if it's a seller's market, that tells you that the appraised value of your property is going to be high.
Yeah.
A year where it's a seller market, your appraised value is going to be high because houses are selling for a higher
Markup.
value.
Right. Right. High value.
But now if it's a buyer's market, then your appraised value should be decreasing because homes should be selling for less.
And also the interest rates on the banks and loans would be a lot lower to try to stimulate that growth, right?
Well, that has a lot to do with your buyers and sellers because
Yeah.
we know
Yeah.
that when the interest rates are low, a lot of people are buying
Right.
and build.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
When the rates are low, so that's one factor that we can always rest assured will drive the housing market. It's
Right.
one factor,
Mhm.
But this is something that's it shouldn't be that big of a jump in one given year.
Right.
And I think the problem has to be at the state level. Just like they said, you can't raise it more than 10% in any given year. I think that they should also set it by if you have to go back to a pre-disaster period, you still can't get more than 15%
Right.
or
50.
20%.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But right now, in some cases, that's like 40%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because
You
of the
see?
damage. Right. I got you.
So that's why I called Representative Doucet because I want him to talk with other legislators to get them to understand this is a situation that happens, but you all need to institute something that will not allow this to jump this much. Because at the end of the day, if the appraisal district would have been keeping the appraised value with what the homes are selling, when the controller came and done their audit, when they would have seen what houses were selling for, and they would have seen what the appraisal district was appraising them at, they'd have passed and we wouldn't have had a problem.
Right. Yeah.
We would not have a problem. So they could have actually just taxed 10% of what they had last year. But because they didn't, because they didn't pass the controller's audit, they're going to be audited now in 2021 and in 2022. They're going to be audited each year as opposed to every other year.
Okay.
So my thing to the representatives is, why do we have to pay for them?
Right. There you go.
Okay, so I know things happen, but if they make that mistake, you need to limit how much they can raise them.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And also
If that pre-disaster amount and where you want to raise it is more than 20% or 15%, you can't do it. I would say 15%. If they can't do it annually, no more than 10, then if you're going to let them go back to a pre-disaster, then they shouldn't go no higher than 15.
Right.
Because you should protect citizens. We should not pay for government mistakes. You should not allow them to catch up on our back.
Okay. Do you also, for all the people that's listening, would you advise them to call Representative Joe Doucet and kind of repeat the same sentiment?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't think it's that important because, once I tell him, and like I said, initially in the conversation when he seen where I was going, he told me he'd like to talk with me because he wholeheartedly agreed.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of him talking to other legislators to let them understand.
Right.
Let's go back and take a look at what we said. When we said go back to your pre-disaster, we figured maybe they'd be a little bit below or something, and the increase won't be 10, it may be 12, 14, 15%. But in this particular case, some people getting 40, 30, 40%.
Okay, yeah.
So they're going to have to go back to where they say go back to pre-disaster. They're going to have to put a cap on that.
Right.
Because if they don't put a cap on that, if this happens again in the future, they will be able to hit you up 30, 40% like they did this time.
Right.
But the law is not designed for it to be that high because if they thought it wasn't, if they thought it was acceptable, they wouldn't have put the 10% cap. They'd have let them put what they wanted.
George.
So when they put a 10% cap, they meant for no citizens to be subjected to more than a 10% increase in any year. But with this disaster and all this stuff and back to back, we're finding out that, hey, you got to cap this other part too now. Because if you don't cap this other part, you're going to kill us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, just think, whatever it goes up to this year, right, it's supposed to be putting it back in line. Well, if they decided that they need to increase tax next year, they can add 10% on this, what it is now.
What it is right now. So this is like the new standard this year. Okay, I got you. Wow.
Yeah. See, so it's not like every time we had a raise, it was always 10%. Because you figure if they did 10% every year, for some people, that's 4 years that they would have went before they had to reach this amount that they're paying now. So, understanding that the appraisal district is the agency that sets these appraisal value of your property for which you are taxed by these other entities on that value, and understanding that the state said no more than 10% increase in any year, and if you had disaster, then we will allow you to go back to your pre-disaster value. Well, in this particular case, in some cases, 30 and 40% increase in 1 year. Yeah. That's not the intent of the legislation. Therefore, we need to get our legislators aware that this would happen, and if you don't fix this, this may occur again.
Absolutely.
And why should citizens have to have this big increase in 1 year because the appraisal district did not stay more on top of what houses were selling for to ensure that these values were in line that they had?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the appraisal district is toe up and ate up. What I'm saying is this mistake, this failure of that audit is going to hurt a lot of homeowners and business people in this county.
Right, yeah, because it puts the burden on the citizens.
Yes, it's going to result into that. And you can also take a look at some areas. You know, they got some areas where their appraisal wasn't that much lower than what the homes were selling for. So those people, if they go back, they're not gonna get a big tax increase.
Yeah.
You know, some people talking about they get like 7%.
Yeah, because theirs was in
Mine went
line.
up 10%. Man, they got people I know went up 40%. You see?
Yeah, absolutely. If you say if it's like if the roof caved in or something, they had to redo the whole roof.
Oh man.
That actually drops the property value way down really low, and then then going back to that original assessment or that original value, it could skyrocket the heck out of it.
I guess in larger cities, and a lot of people think we really a little city, but when you get 50,000 people, then a lot of times it's just not feasible for people to do individual appraisal. Like every year somebody go and look at your house
right,
and appraise it, and then look at what they're selling for in that area, and then they say, okay, this is what your house is worth too, based on these other homes in that area. Well, you can't do that with a city our size because it takes a lot of people and personnel, and then about something people only gonna do for a certain period of time in a year, and then what they're gonna do for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So we adopt that, but there are some smaller cities where they actually do individual appraisal of property, where they actually go out and look at your property every year,
right,
and then they tell you what it's worth. But those are, your 7, 8, maybe 10,000 population,
Uh-huh.
But when you get to our size, it's pretty hard because that appraisal district is not only responsible for the audit, but they got OMID also. So
Right,
you're talking about over 250,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot, and then a lot of homes, a lot of businesses, because they got to do it for all of us,
Right.
And they have to do it in a time frame so that they could give you a notice on what they feel your property tax is going to be this year. So they got to give you a chance to appeal it, and then go through the appeal process for those who do. Then send out your final notice.
Right.
And that final notice is actually what you have to pay, and then that has to be paid by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's understanding the process, understanding that this is unfortunate, and it's definitely a burden, but it has nothing to do with the county, the commissioner's court. Neither does it have anything to do with city leaders or cities. This is strictly something that was happening at the level of the appraisal district and the state of Texas, and the state of Texas came down and audited them, and they went out and look at what homes were selling for in certain areas, and they look at what they got homes appraised for in that area. They found that, what they selling for and what you have them appraised for is not the same. What you got them appraised for is less than what they're selling for. You're not getting the taxes.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
We want our taxes.
We want our money.
That's when everybody's okay with what you do. We don't have a problem with what you do. We don't get a price. Hey, we don't care what you do. But when we find out we losing money, guess what?
Now it's a problem.
All of a sudden it changes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. I think you gave a really good breakdown of that, and I think a lot of people would, I think a lot of people understand after listening to this, and hey, you want to, give it like a closing statement or something on that? Because, I think you broke it down real nice.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that it's something that's very unfortunate. After you understand all of the parts involved, I'm definitely going to continue pursuing this with our representatives. And if I have to go to Austin as a citizen, I'm going to do that because I practice what I preached when I was on council. If people don't know, just go and let them know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
They have to understand what has happened, and not that you can do anything about this, but you have to be able to ensure that we fix it so that it doesn't happen again.
Right.
And that's going to be my purpose from here, from where I stand. I'm just going to get with the representative, and I'm going to do everything I can at the state level, but let them take a look at. Y'all need to cap the backside of this too. Where you tell them they could go back, you let them go back, but you have to tell them they can't increase it for so much. That's what needs to be done in order for this to be fixed. Because if they don't, it can occur again.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
It can occur again.
Yeah.
That's all.
I sure do appreciate your advocacy for citizens, and keep on, fighting the fight during and after council. And please keep us updated with your fighting on this topic, so we can keep the citizens updated. And
well, I tell you what, after I talk with the representative,
yes, sir,
and get something back, I'll give you a shout. Then we can pass it on.
Oh, appreciate it.
Yeah. We can do a follow up on what the legislature is looking at, and they say, because I know it's something that they're going to have to consider, because you're giving somebody something to do, but you're not putting a cap on it. And in this case, it's 40% on some people. So
right.
That's not the intent of legislation, and legislators don't intend that. But unless they understand what's happening, and they need to take action to stop it from happening again, most time they'll take the necessary action. So I'll see where it goes, but I'll be glad to let you know, and you could set it up, and I'll come and pass the results, or you could pass them. But we'll give them some follow up on this.
Yeah, I'll probably get you to come back again, because a lot of people want to know the ins and outs, the process, you going down there and what happened. So they'll probably want to know some of the backstory of it. And again, I appreciate you for coming on the show, coming on the podcast. For my request after talking to you the other day, I said, hey, I got to get you on the podcast and put this information out to the people. I'm glad you obliged us. And again, I want to thank you for everything you're doing for the city. And also thank the listeners for listening. And another episode down the hatch. Everybody take it easy. Peace.